This is gonna be like cream, shabby chic, textural, vintage inspired doily quilt. Hi friends, welcome back to Karla.created, and in this video I'm making another patchwork quilt. Okay, let's get straight into it. Let me share with you the fabrics that I've pulled out of my stash and scrap pile to make this quilt. Now you'll notice that they're all different shades of cream or beige. Yeah, I'm making a totally vanilla type, quilters would call it a low color value, I believe, quilt. And now the reason for this is because, well, there's two reasons actually. The person that this quilt is for is one of my best friends, and she's having a milestone birthday very, very soon. She likes the concept of having a all white cream colored quilt with a bit of a twist, which I'll come to in a minute. Now, the second reason I'm making this kind of color scheme of a quilt is because when I told my dad many months ago that I was getting into quilting, he actually said to me, I hope that you make like nice quilts that go with people's decor, like make like a nice cream colored quilt. And I understand why he said that is because his house has a lovely sort of Hamptons vibe with lots of whites and creams and, you know, beautiful calm tones. So I totally get where he was coming from, and to pay homage to him, I'm going to make this quilt as well. So let's take a look at the fabrics that I have picked out. Starting with this, let's get into the brown. Let's talk about this weird brown velvety fabric. This is scrap. This came off of an armchair that I actually reupholstered. I've washed it, it's laundered, don't worry, it's clean. I'm gonna use it in some of the blocks, and depending on how much I have, I'm thinking I might bind the quilt with this beautiful fabric. It's like faded, but darker in some spots. And I also have this plain white waffle type cotton, which I'm going to use. I'm going for like a bit of a textured kind of vibe because I've got the waffle. I've also got that sort of brownie suede. I then have some scraps of cream plain linen. You know, when you buy sheets, and some sheet companies will have like the fabric of the sheets as the packaging around the sheets. It's just that packaging. It's like the bag that a sheet set came in. So I'm going to use that. I also have a whole bunch of scraps. And then I have this vintage sheet, which has got these beautiful flowers on it. And then lastly, I have this lovely textured fabric, which I purchased from a store in South Australia. The store is like a remnants store that primarily sells like upholstery and curtain fabric. This is like a beautiful woven cotton that is kind of like sort of see-through. I don't know if you can sort of see that. I'm going to just start randomly making scrap blocks in the method that I normally do, which is just sewing bits of fabric together randomly and then cutting them till I get the size that I want. This is the block size that I'm going to go for, only because it is already a ruler that I have. And yeah, we're just gonna, oh, wait, hold the phone. I forgot to tell you the thing that I mentioned earlier about little surprise. I'm gonna add lace and doilies. So I mentioned that I've got all these textured fabrics, and I'm gonna like embrace the textural nature of this quilt and add some lace from my stash, which I think I thrifted like a decade ago. And then I have doilies. I even have like these amazing, look, this says here, set of 4 coasters produced in Nottingham lace by Francia Lacecraft. How cool is that? Like, it's literally in the original packaging. The sticky tape is gone yellow. So yeah, that's the plan. Let's do it.
Okay, yes, I am adding orange pops as well as brown pops of color into this primarily cream and beige and white colored quilt. I'm doing this because I know my friend really likes this amber orangey type color, and I feel like it goes really well with the flowers that are in that vintage bed sheet that I showed you earlier. Plus, I had a whole bunch of these scraps, and there is a story behind this orange fabric. It's actually from a dress that I refashioned for myself. So I'm hoping that when she looks at those pops of orange that I know she's going to love, she thinks of me, because I am, of course, going to tell her about every single piece of fabric in this quilt and where it came from. So once I finish making the scrappy blocks with those bits of orange and other random scraps, I moved on to create these really simple blocks just with strips of 3-inch fabric. And I felt like this was textural enough and differentiated enough, but not too much to distract from the doilies that are inevitably going to be overlaid against these blocks. I utilized any smaller, shorter offcut bits to make more scrappy type blocks. Next up, I started creating the blocks with the brown centers. Now, I fully intended to do these in the log cabin method, but I've just realized watching this playback footage that for this first set, I definitely didn't do that. I don't know what this block method is called. If anybody does know, can you please let me know in the comments? But you'll see me now actually doing the log cabin method. And I've not even realized that I now have 2 different styles of blocks throughout the quilt. But whatever, they're all mismatched and scrappy. The only thing that's the same is the brown velvet centers. I then started cutting out this lace because I realized that that orange color was just far too bold and I wanted to mute it using this lace. Oh, okay. It's like 6:45 and I am so determined to get this quilt top finished today so that I can prep the sandwich and hopefully quilt throughout this coming week and then do the binding. Obviously, they're the remaining steps after you finish your quilt top. This quilt has taken me a really long time, weeks. Obviously, most things take me a long time because I have other responsibilities and a 9-to-5 job as well. But this one has taken an exceptionally long time. I literally started this, oh my gosh, in October, thinking I would have plenty of time to have it ready for December, and I'm now like at the point of frantic, panicking sewing. That's okay. Got myself organized. I have my list of remaining things that I need to do to get it finished. I have everything here on my desk. The quilt blocks are all done, and how pretty did these look? I finished these last night. These are the ones with like the orange scrappy bits, and they were just the orange was too sort of solid and bold and just wasn't going well with everything else. So then I covered it with this lace and it just mutes it ever so slightly and it's very delightful. I also cheated a little bit last night and I knew I needed 5 more blocks to get the right size, and I just cut 5 plain out of this old bedsheet fabric, which is actually Australian made vintage fabric, which I love. And I've got that obviously dispersed throughout the quilt as well in scrappy form, as well as other strips. But I was thinking that with those plain blocks that I will use to feature some of these circular doilies. How cute's that? But I'm going to attach the doilies after I do the design, which is what I'm going to do this morning. And for those of you who've seen my other quilt videos, You're gonna laugh because every single one of them I talk about needing some kind of design wall, not using the floor. I haven't actually done anything about that yet, despite all of the advice in all of the comments. I will one day. I have a very small house and I don't have a lot of wall space because I like to fill my walls with things, pictures and trinkets and stuff. So I'll figure that out one day, but for now I'm going to use the floor again. So let's start designing. Let me just show you this. So I went to the thrift store yesterday because I needed to get some knitting needles. I found these and they're brand new. Like, I'm not gonna buy secondhand used stocks from the thrift store, but I just thought they were hilarious, and I'm also gonna give them to my friend for her birthday. Hey girl. Also, completely unnecessary little hot tip: if you like thrifting, go thrift yourself some unused gift cards. I got all of these and I have the envelopes as well, and 50 cents each. Seriously, like, this one's like, you know, oh my God. And they're lovely, like how cute. So yeah, get onto it. 50 cents each. It's much more sustainable than buying new, obviously, and much more affordable. Who would have thought? Okay, it's like, I don't even know how many hours later, and I have finished sewing all of the rows together. That took so much longer than what it needed to take because my sewing machine is just having a moment. I literally had to give it a full service, which involves cleaning it, oiling it, but it's just sounding really like there's like a squeaking noise and something's not quite right. So I think I need to take the full bobbin area out and just check that all of that is okay. And then if that's all fine, then I think it might just be my bobbin tension. Perhaps something happened when I was when I was winding the bobbin earlier. I don't know. But I have had to sew so incredibly slowly to avoid the thread snapping and to keep the tension relatively consistent, because it's the last thing you need when you're like wanting to get something done. Anyway. Fixed it. It was my bobbin case needed to be oiled, like not the whole thing needs to come out. You would have seen it, and it's like so quiet now. That's all it was. So well, there we go. My machine is now fully serviced. Let me know in the comments if you want me to do a video on how I service my machine myself. Yeah, it's probably not the most riveting video, but I'm happy to do that if any of you are interested. Or let me know how you maintain your machine. I'd be very interested to hear how other people go about it, whether they do it themselves or whether they take it to a, you know, professional place. This is what I have to contend with whilst trying to sew. Cubby house is being built. What I'm going to do is sew some 2-inch strips in between each row, because I am worried it is not going to be big enough. And I really don't want to make any more blocks because I'm running out of time. I started cutting some 2.5-inch strips of this really cool textured fabric, and that's what's going to go in between each row and probably all the way around prior to quilting. How you doing, sweetie pie?
Okay, so the quilt top is completely sewn together, and now all I need to do is attach the doilies. So I laid them all out on the quilt top and then pinned them all in place where I wanted them, and then started by hand stitching them all down. Now this took far longer than what I expected. I literally was hand sewing morning and evening, before and after work, and all through the weekend just to get it done in time. But I have to say, it was so enjoyable, and I'm really looking forward to my next project where I can do some hand stitching. Bear in mind, I did machine stitch some of the doilies down just because it was a little bit easier. Those like this one that had the square edges were far easier to stitch down with my machine. Once they were all stitched down, all I needed to do next was create the quilt sandwich and then pin it all together and then figure out how to quilt it. And by this point, I am just so thrilled with how it's looking. Okay, the quilt sandwich is done. It's like a quilt burrito at the moment. And I finally have a solid couple of hours to work on this. Despite needing to do 50 million other things around my house as well, I am going to prioritize spending a huge chunk of today working on this quilt because her birthday is literally tomorrow and I am seriously running out of time and getting kind of anxious that I won't have this finished in time to give it to her. All I need to do is quilt it. I haven't quite decided yet how I'm going to be quilting it. I know that I will do like parallel lines, quilting lines to match the sort of strips that I put in between each row. So I will be doing that, but then everywhere else on the quilt, I don't know yet. I haven't figured it out. I have been toying with the idea of doing some sort of squares around each block and then getting my needle and thread out and maybe hand quilting like around each doily. But I honestly don't think I'm going to have time to do that. That's going to take hours and hours and hours, and I still need to attach the binding as well. So I'm really stressing. I have finished quilting these rows here. Here we go. What I think I'm going to do is around the doilies and on these other blocks that I've done, I'm just going to like stitch sort of like boxes, I think, around the shapes, like on the inside of each block. Yeah, I think that's probably going to be the like quickest method. Some of them I've got like off-center doilies, so I don't know what I'm going to do there. Oh, I'm done. I'm done. It's 1:40. Yes. I have like an hour before I have to go. So that's great. Yes, yes. Now, all I need to do is cut all of the crazy loose threads that are everywhere. Take some of the, well, not some, but all of the remaining quilting pins out because I have just left some of them. And then we can bind it. I feel way less pressure. This is good. This is good. I have to say that hand stitching is really relaxing and enjoyable. I love stitching on this binding, and I also loved stitching on my Karla.created label with some decorative stitches that you can see here. I think it looks so cute. But anyway, here is the finished quilt. It's all wrapped up, ready to give to her, and I am really nervous, hoping that she loves it. Is that a whole doily? I love this. I love it. 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 I love all this. Do you like it? My God, it's beautiful. I love it. I love it. It's so pretty. I love this material. I love the pops of brown. Yay! My damn, the colour. You're gonna have to like find all the different doilies because there's so many random doilies all over it. Well, there you go, folks. I think it's safe to say that she absolutely loved this quilt. And I absolutely adored making this quilt for her. It was such a joy to make and an absolute labor of love. Those diamond doilies there are my all-time favorite on this quilt. Here's the back with all of the random quilting pattern design that I did, and I just think it turned out so fantastic. Please let me know what you think. Do you like it? Do you like the colors, or is it too neutral for you? I'd love to hear in the comments what you think of this quilt and if you liked it too. And if you enjoy content like this, please give it the thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I will be starting my next quilting project very soon. It's safe to say that I am absolutely addicted to quilting. It is the most fun. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.